And hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Melissa Banks Show. I'm Cyrus Webb of Cyrus Webb Presents. Glad you all could join us for today's program. If you guys are new to us here, we're here every Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That's 10:30 a.m. Central Time with master event planner, entrepreneur, and author Melissa Banks. She shares a lot of her experience she's been able to have in business and life and shares it with all of you, answering your questions, but also giving some valuable information. Hello to you, Shirley, if all is well with you. There is Melissa. Going to go ahead and bring her in. If you guys have any questions, feel free to be able to use the question mark at the bottom of the screen. We'll do our best to be able to answer those for you. Also, of course, feel free to be able to post your comments right in the section there. And there is Melissa. Hello, Melissa. How are you?
I'm great. Hi, Cyrus. How are you today?
Really good. RCM Talent, good to see you. Diana, good to see you again this week. Appreciate you being with us. Melissa, I was just saying with them, if they have any questions, feel free to be able to drop them either in the comment bubble. You guys will see there with a question mark, or you can be able to write them in the comments. We'll do our best to be able to scan through them. Also, if you guys are not following myself or Melissa, you'll notice right here, there's a drop down arrow with my name. You'll see there. But if you hit that drop down arrow there, it also will be able to allow you to follow Melissa as well. So make sure you guys are doing that. Melissa, we're going to be talking about something that is very important today. A lot of people, whether they're thinking about having an event or being able to do something special, there are different ways they can be able to do it. But the big question is, how do they start? But before we get into that, hello to you, Kenneth. Hope all is well with you. I want to ask you, Melissa. I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but that's just my nature, not to tell people stuff. But But I want to ask you about this space now that we're now a few weeks into the Melissa Banks show. I mean, this is just, again, another slash behind your name this year. I mean, how does it feel now to be, I mean, you've been used to interviewing people with Dream by Design with Melissa Banks. How does it feel now to be pouring into others with information this way?
It's exciting to me. And so I look forward to this time every week to be able to do that. And it's shocking as well. It's not something I thought I would be doing, but I really love it because what it causes me to do is look inside of myself and what I'm doing and reviewing my processes and stuff. So it's just been great to be able to have this time to pour into other people. I get poured into too, and it's just been amazing.
Well, good, good. So we want to talk about, hey, Dennis, good to see you, Dennis Perkins, another Mississippian in the building. So we want to talk about getting started. So Melissa, you are, as I mentioned, a master event planner. You're an entrepreneur. You're an author. People, I'm sure, ask you all the time, hey, I'm thinking about having this event, or I have an anniversary coming up. I want to be able to plan a wedding, or, and they're trying to think of what they want to do, how they want to do it, especially in the world we're living in right now where things are so different. The question of starting, I think is so important. But I thought it was also interesting, Melissa, as I was kind of marinating on this today before the show. This is so true just in life in general, right? The importance of preparation. How important has it been for you as an event planner, regardless of what type of event that you're helping with, Melissa? How important has the planning been for you?
Well, planning took on a whole different look right over the last 2 years. So you started to have to think about things that we didn't have to think about over my 20-year career, like
Mm-hmm.
whether it's going to be physical, in person, in the room. If it is, how many people are we going to be able to have? How close are we going to sit people? Those are things we really never had to think about. We just had to think about if the venue was big enough, right? So we
Right.
had to really rethink how we look at events. And so those questions come to mind as an event planner from the moment you're contacted. What is the event? Where do we need to have it? What kind of components do we need to be there? So it's a totally different outlook than where we were 2 years ago. We even have to think about how we're going to greet people when they come in. That was just a natural, right? Well, now it's
Yeah.
not a natural. It has to be part of the planning process.
Yeah. Melissa, this is a fascinating conversation. I think, even though when we set this up, we were going to be talking about how to get started with an event. But even I think people who are attending these events, I mean, I think we can even include that in this conversation because you've been able to see this firsthand. For full disclosure, I just have to let my audience know you're used to seeing me traveling. I have not been outside of the state of Mississippi since March of 2020. So honestly, I am totally ignorant when it comes to what is happening right now with events because I made the personal decision to protect myself and my family not to do any events. I haven't been to, but what event? in the past 19 months, and that was the anniversary for the radio station that I'm with here, and there was only 5 of us in the whole room. So, Melissa, you again, you've had to deal with this. What was that like for you to, like you said, this is so different than what you've had to deal with. What was it like for you to think about those little logistical things? Because see, I didn't even think about until you just mentioned it about how do you greet people? You know, we're used to shaking hands and hugging. What was that like for you to kind of really have everything you've known kind of be upended by the pandemic?
Well, it was really different for us, but it became very important. So it had to be part of the conversation we had with the client from the moment we were hired. This is how we're going to greet people. We had to plan our process ahead of time and then talk with the client so that the guests can be prepared. One of the things we did, our very first event after the pandemic, is we sent emails to the guests so that they can know what are we going to see when we arrive. It's going to be different when we arrive. How are we going to be interacting so that it's not a shock when they come in and someone's there with a thermometer to take their temperature, which is part of the environment. It's what we had to do in order to get us back to having events. So it is different. It feels different. The preparation feels different. So the best thing that we found was the communication with the client. So the client is clear. Because remember, when it's a social event, these are people you love, right? These are people that you know, that you want to walk up to and hug. Yeah. Because they're family, they're your good friends. So we had to really have strong conversations to not do that, to do that differently now, but still make your guests feel warm and inviting. So that's part of the process now, and it's part of the plan. Every planner or every person hosts an event, whether you have a planner or not, you have to keep those things in consideration, but you still want to create a great environment that people are enjoying themselves. So you have to have a plan or how you're going to do that, and then stick with it when you're on site.
And Melissa, that's why we are so thankful to have you here as someone who does the planning, but also does consulting for people. Like you said, whether they choose to use you or have an event planner, or even just do a consultation with you to see what they need to be thinking about, because these are really important questions. And I think it's something, hey, Courtney, good to see you. Ellen, good to see you as well. For those who are just coming in, you're watching the Melissa Banks Show, presented by Cyrus Webb. I have Melissa Banks is down there. I'm Cyrus Webb. You probably know that. But we're talking about where to get started, how to get started if you're thinking about having an event, whether we're talking about a party or any type of gathering, when it comes to now the world that we're living in, whether it's going to be, as Melissa was saying, in person, virtual, hybrid, what you need to be thinking about. So, Melissa, have you found that the clients you're working with now, that those are questions that they didn't even consider? Like you just brought up the thermometer. I wasn't even thinking about that, but you're right. That's a thing now. People actually do check your temperature. Are you finding that's a surprise for them as they are trying to plan what they want to do and how they want to do it?
Well, what I'm finding is a lot of clients ask, how do we do this now? How do we have events now? They come in the door asking about that because they've been educated over the last 2 years. Like, if we want to have an event, so what do we need to do? So they don't know what to do, but they know they come in asking questions about it. How many people can we sit at the table? In the past, you can sit 8 to 10 people at a table. Well, we had to change that because of the current environment, but most regular guests don't know what that is. That's why you have to talk to someone. Like you said, even if you just get an hour consultation, I want to have a physical event. What do I need to think about? Because that you don't know, but you got to do something different. So a lot of times they're asking the question, what do we do? We had an event recently that required every guest to be tested. And this was a family event. They had to be tested with their cards when they got to the event. So it really depends on who you are and who you're working with and what you want to do for your guests. The thing is your guests, they want to be part of your celebration. So most of them are going to just do whatever you ask. You just have to know what to ask of them.
Yeah. Ellen, the question button, you'll see it down below next to the little share arrow there at the bottom of your screen. But Ellen does ask, Melissa, have you had someone to plan an event based on their heart and not the money they have in their pocket? That's a good question.
Okay, so most of the time when you're dealing with like a social event, let's just say a wedding, it's going to be about the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Weddings are usually about the heart. Graduations are usually about the heart. So they come in with the emotions of the celebration. Most often than not, they're not thinking about the money part. They want the celebration part. And that's where it comes in, where a good planner or a good person to guide you come in is, let's take these emotions that you want and your budget and create the environment that you want to create for your event.
Yeah. Well, Melissa knows, and most of my friends know I'm cheap. So I'm always asked, no matter what it is, how much is it? Well, you can get, well, how much is that? How much does that cost? I mean, because I think, of course, everyone tells me I don't agree. Everyone tells me I'm not normal, but I'm going to ask about the money. Then my heart will come later. If I didn't have a heart attack, what you know how much it costs, then we'd be good. See, I can't plan this big thing, and then at the end you tell me, oh, it's only $1,990. like, okay, we're gonna have to come down some tears here. But I mean, this is really. Ellen said that's not cheap. That's realistic. Hey, there you go. And I'm all about the real, Ellen. I'm all about the real. I mean, I don't even try to front. I want to know how much everything is, even when I'm calling for pizza. I want to know how much, when they talk about extra toppings, I want to know how much that gonna cost.
But Cyrus, we do have people that's their first question is how much it's going to cost. Yeah. But then we have to kind of backtrack them and find out what it is that you're wanting to do, what's the experience you want to create, and help them come to a reasonable budget to create the event they're looking for.
Yeah, we're going to continue this conversation, Melissa, but I want to answer this question too. Have you had a person who created last minute ideas? So I mean, you are an event planner, Melissa, but I mean, what is, because I don't really know the answer to this myself. So this is a good question to ask. What is a reasonable amount of time to try to plan an event?
Well, you always want 3 to 6 months for anything, right? And
okay, I want you to stop right there. Okay, I want y'all to hear what she just said. Okay, so again, I must not be normal. Okay, all right. Okay, Melissa, and I'm being serious. So you're saying, hey, Herschel, good to see you. You're saying 3 to 6 months? Is it seriously the ideal amount of time?
Well, it's depending on the event and the scope of the event that you're planning. 3 to 6 months at least, at minimum. If it's a wedding, if it's a big event, then you want a year to plan out your wedding. If it's a big 500-person event, then of course you want some time to do that. And most planners would say 1 year for something like that. Now we've had last minute events. I had one event that was a wedding, and the groom got orders to go to report to service. So they gave us 30 days to pull it together. So you have to work with a professional the shorter your time frame is, because you have to have someone who knows what they're doing, already have the vendor relationships ready, can give you the budget and get you rolling. Another thing about the more time you give yourself, the more you can work with your budget, right? So just take, for instance, if you only have $10,000 and you want to throw an event that's going to cost $20,000, if you get started earlier, you can stretch that budget out and be able to have more of what you want. So the shorter the time frame, you got to hire professionals, surround yourself with professionals, and you have to have the money already in the bank, ready to go.
Love that. Officially, the Kings, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. We're talking to master event planner, entrepreneur, and author Melissa Banks. Today, we're answering the question, how to get started. Let's say you want to have an event. And hey, this goes for authors too. You guys want to throw a book event. Do you want to do an in-person? Do you want to do a virtual? Do you want to do a hybrid? And she's talking about parties, anniversaries. Those are all questions you have to ask. And Melissa's been dropping some really important knowledge here about things to think about, things I didn't even consider, like if you're going to do temperature checks, what are the requirements? I know for the Will Smith event in New York, Melissa, I think I told you, you had to have proof of vaccination for that. So, I mean, it's everyone is different, but at least, going in what to be able to expect, for that particular thing. So again, whether you're hiring someone like Melissa or doing a consultation with someone like Melissa, these are questions that are important if you want to be able to have success with it. So Melissa, okay, so let's just say we're talking about that time frame, which I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it does make sense. But we've been hearing a lot about these, and you and I talked about, actually, quite honestly, about these containers and how the shipping issues have been impacting a lot of things. Have you found that, especially this year, has that been an issue for you when it comes to planning events for your clients?
You know, that's another thing that makes this season we're in, and the longer you give yourself for your event, the better. It's because of the containers and the supply chain. It has been a real struggle for those of us in the design industry getting the things that we used to could get in a heartbeat. You know, there's vendors that I've used over the years that I could in the past order something within a few days, know it's sitting at my door. Well, that's changed now, right? So you have to give yourself some time. You have to be working with the professional so that she can give some time, but she can also know what to do if that one item was your must-have item, but it didn't come in time for your event. This past wedding that we did, we had to do a lot of creativity because things were not coming that we were expecting to come. We were planning it on a short time frame and just got caught up in it. Nothing we could do about it. But because of our 20 years experience, we knew how to make it happen, even if it wasn't what we originally thought. So you have to keep that in mind when you're doing your planning for your event. That's why you see a lot of planners advertising for 2022 events already, because we want to be able to plan ahead to be able to get you what you want for your event.
Yeah. Let's do a rundown, if you don't mind, Melissa. And officially the Kings, thank you so much for the follow. If you, I want to mention, too, if you guys are not following either Melissa or myself, you notice there's a drop-down arrow right here. Click that. And if you're not following us, you can do it right from the actual broadcast. You don't have to leave anymore to be able to do that. We appreciate the follow. We're here every Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That's 10:30 a.m. Central Time with Melissa, with the Melissa Banks Show, sharing with you guys some great ideas for business, for life, as well as, of course, she does a lot of other things too. We'll run down a little bit later. I want to do a kind of an explanation for our audience, Melissa, because we're using some of the terminology that we've gotten used to in our industry, but just to make sure they understand. So I think an in-person event, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. But explain to them what the difference between a virtual event and a hybrid event, if you don't mind.
Oh, wow. That's great. Great question. Okay. A virtual event means that it's all virtual. It's all digital. No one is in a virtual space. It's all through a virtual platform. The hybrid event means that you have a in-person audience in the venue and a virtual audience, but it's one single event. So the key is to create an experience that the virtual audience will feel engaged and excited about, as well as the in-person audience.
Love that. Love that. And I've been able, and you've been doing those this year. Dennis says excellent information. It is excellent information. And I think, too, what I have learned, Melissa, and you can speak more about this from the event planning side, but I can tell as someone who's attended the event and even spoken at some hybrid events. Well, actually, was it a hybrid? Yeah, that was hybrid. When we did the anniversary event, because we had people in person, but most people were online, was that you're able to get more people. I mean, we had over 3,000 people at our anniversary event for the radio station in that 1 hour event, and there's no way we could have achieved that, in person. Have you found that that's been a beneficial thing for people to have it so that people outside the area can be a part of it virtually?
Oh, absolutely. Because, you were in a small space. You were able to have the people that were close to the project in the space, but then you reached over 3,000 people. That's been the key to virtual. That's why I've fallen in love with the virtual component. We even, Cyrus, early in the process, when we could only have like 10 people in this room, we participated in a wedding. There were about 10 people in the ceremony site, in the reception site, the parents, the people close to the couple, but they had 500 people on the hybrid, on virtual. These people were part of the event. They weren't just sitting back watching. They were enjoying the champagne at champagne time. They dressed up as if they were there. It was a great experience, even for them. But they didn't have to not invite them because they couldn't have the 10 people in the room. Everybody was there. And that was a great experience. And I think that's the great thing about the virtual component, whether it's a hybrid or a virtual. Having that virtual component, you can't beat it for reaching more people, being able to invite everybody, even your childhood friend, if you wanted to your event, because they can come and join you even virtually.
Love that. So, Melissa, what I want to do next is kind of talk about looking forward, because we are at the end of 2021. As you mentioned, event planners like yourself are already planning into next year, which makes sense because of the amount of time you say you really should give yourself. Are you optimistic at this point? I mean, I'm an optimistic person by nature, but I've also kind of settled, to be quite honest with you, that I think we're going to be dealing with our current circumstances for a while. And I've been trying to continue to think of that as I'm already planning for my programs for next year. Are you kind of confident at this point that 2022 is going to look a lot like 2021 when it comes to event planning?
Well, I think that virtual events is part of our life. They're not getting ready to go away. They're part of what we do, which I'm excited about even as an event planner, because it opens up so many more doors. So I think when we look at 2022 and our goals for our businesses, for our social life, even going into 2022, we have to think that this current environment in some form is still going to be around in 2022. But we've learned so much about how to have events, how to get excited about events. And a lot of people love virtual events because they get to dress waist up, they get to sit, and they still get to participate in the event. So we have to think creativity. We have to think how to engage both in person and virtually. And we have to think about the experience that we want our guests to have. Even if it's a birthday party and you're doing it, we did that this year. We had an in-person group and a virtual group for a birthday party, and the celebration was wow. We had music, gifts, games, entertainment. So you have to think that way when you're planning your 2022 event, to maybe put a virtual component there so that you can have the group that you want and still have the excitement. It's no way to plan 2022 without thinking virtual in some aspect, without thinking that this current environment is still going to be around in some form.
Yeah. So both of us live in Mississippi, Melissa, and of course things are different in different places in the country as far as to how you can do things. And again, my ignorance is I'm not going to try to speak a lot about what is happening, because honestly, I don't know. I haven't been to any events myself. Haven't been to any concerts. Of course, full disclosure, I've never been to a concert even before the pandemic. So I can't blame the pandemic for me not going to a concert. But I don't know a lot about the restrictions and things. Have you found that there's more lax for the venues, Melissa, or more leeway as far as to how many they're allowing to be inside for events? I don't know this answer myself, but I'm curious.
Well, for Mississippi, it's really going to be up to the venue right now. You know, there were times during this process that we had some guidelines there, but we don't have a lot of guidelines in place right now. But, you know, we can be having this conversation right now, and next week things have changed. Yeah. But right. As a venue manager, as you know, I'm a venue manager at a local venue here. So we keep that in mind. We have some policies in place for our venue to make sure everybody stays safe, you know. So we want a safe, enjoyable experience. So you want to choose a venue that thinks about that. But locally here, we really don't have the guidelines. We just put them in place for our venue to keep our guests and their guests safe and be able to have an enjoyable experience.
Yeah. Ellen, you're right. I am a bit shy, more nerdy than shy, I think, Ellen. But no, I've never been to a concert, actually. So I don't want to put that on the pandemic. I don't want to blame the pandemic for that. I just haven't been. JB, hello to you. Glad to have you. Again, everyone, master event planner, entrepreneur, and author Melissa Banks has been with us for the Melissa Banks Show this week, talking about some great, she's been dropping. Melissa, this was a lot better even than I already imagined it was going to be, because there's so much that came out of it, and our time is already up.
I know. Wow.
But I want to say this whole show was about how to get started. Now, we were talking about a couple things here. We went into this, Melissa and I did, want to talk about what you all needed to know if you wanted to have an in-person event, a virtual event, a hybrid event, how to get started, whether you're working with an event planner like Melissa is, or doing a consultation with her to do it yourself. But then we got into talking about if you're going to be a person attending the event, what you need to know and what the person who's throwing the event needs to make sure that they have. Are you finding that, Melissa, I do want to ask you this question. We're going to get into the rundown of the things that you have going on, because this is a question just came to me. So is it incumbent then on the person throwing the event to make sure that the person who's attending the event actually knows what's required, or is it part of the venue that does that?
It is the client. It is the person who is hosting the event. It's really their responsibility. That's why when you have someone that knows how to do it, that you can count on getting that advice from them, even if it's that 1 hour consultation that you talked about, because it is if you're the host of the event, it's actually your responsibility to make sure that you present a safe environment for the guests that you're inviting in. You know, I shared earlier that I had a bride that required every person that attended her wedding to be vaccinated, and she required proof of vaccination when they arrived. That was her. That was on her. That was her doing. We've had another event that they did rapid tests of every guest, but that responsibility, financial responsibility, and those responsibilities lie on the person hosting the event.
Yeah, JB, you're right. I do have to get out more. It's I do cafes. I just never did a concert. Never been. I'm not a big crowd person either, so that's a big part of that. Melissa Banks, a lot of great information, and I have to say now I have more questions, which we will have to fold into other shows because this is something that's interesting then because that means there has to be a lot of communication between one, the event planner, the client, and the venue to know what's happening there, but also the client and who they want to be guests so that they're communicating that information correctly so no one gets to any, because you don't want to have your event ruined because people come to a place and something is in place that they either weren't aware of or they're not prepared for. So that's some really good information. So Melissa, you've shared some great information here, but you continue to do that outside of here. 3 things I want you to share. First of all, how can people contact you for a consultation or to be able to work with you as an event planner?
Oh, wow. Awesome. This has been an amazing conversation. I loved it. Okay. To reach us, you can simply book an hour with us by going to themelissabanks.com and select book an hour with Melissa. That's right there. You can choose your hour and then we can set up and schedule a time and then go over things, your questions, show up with your questions. You can get so much in that 1 hour that will set you up for success for your next event.
Yeah, great. And you have, speaking of virtual events, you have an upcoming event that's taking place, a virtual conference in January. Imagine the possibilities. Give them the rundown about that and how they can get their tickets for that.
Okay. Imagine the Possibilities Conference is to inspire, motivate you, and push you to action and to reaching your dreams. It is designed to give you what you need to move you past where you normally would stop. You can get tickets at themelissabanks.com. The very first link is to get your tickets for the conference. The conference is being held on January 29th, 2022, and it is 100% virtual. So you can get your girls, you can get by yourself, you can get your cup of coffee and enjoy right from your home. Right now, early bird is still going on till the 10th, and you can get early bird tickets at themelissabanks.com.
All right. Last thing, Melissa, we were just talking about your dream boxes are going fast, but let our audience know what's in the dream box and how they can be able to order theirs.
You know, a great gift to give to the ladies on your gift list right now is the gift of inspiration, and that's what the dream box is. Inside the box is a devotional that helps them, give them some inspirational words and little tidbits that they can remember to push them through the day. It's also our Sweet Dreams candle that they can just provide that interaction that they need that moment. Light a candle, make some notes in the devotional because there's a place there that you can put your thoughts as well. And it's also includes our inspirational bracelet that says dream, just a daily reminder that you can wear. I wear it every single day. It just reminds me that I can dream big, and I can have the life that I desire. You can also get your dream boxes right there at themelissabanks.com.
All right. Kate Book, feel free to send me a message and we can find out what you need to review for. So just send me a message here on Instagram. Ellen says, I love how you said show up with your question. That's the thing. I think that's the thing that I have found this in the consultations I do with my brand, Melissa. It is so important. It makes it so much easier when people come prepared with their questions, so they're not wasting their time that they're paying for, but also that it helps you to better be able to appreciate and help them in that time as well. So Melissa, always a pleasure. I tell you, this was really good. This was really good. I mean, they all have been good, but I love the fact that this is actionable information, I think. And I think the big takeaway from me and just in thinking about it really quickly is communication, planning and communication. Because if you do those 2 things, then you don't have to have the stress of all the other stuff that can come along with it. Melissa, I appreciate you, and always a pleasure being with you, especially here for the Melissa Banks Show. And we thank all of you for tuning in to another great episode of the Melissa Banks Show. If you guys missed it, you came in late, don't worry. This will be showing up on our pages here on Instagram and other social media sites. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.